Hey, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Frank About Health. The date is September 19th, 2024. And why am I specifying that? Because 6 months ago, this time, my special guest today was here to talk about nutrition for a healthier heart. It was Cardiac Awareness Month at the time, but that was only his second visit. His first was when he introduced me and the listeners and viewers out there to his company, ProAttitudes.com, which we will learn more about again, especially on this episode, because we're going to be talking a lot about what his methodology focuses on, which is your inner critic. And the name of this episode is looking at a comparison between your inner critic and your inner coach. Yes, I've been working with him and ProAttitudes. I have to say, he definitely has had a positive influence on my own nutrition as well as my own ways of looking at life as I move forward through Frank About Health, as well as that secret project that is about to be unveiled in about 30 days. But I did want to point out that I will issue my official disclaimer. These are not the views of Frank About Health or TalkRadio.nyc, but they are solutions that can help those out there listening to this show to find a better way to manage your nutrition as well as your mental health, and probably all at once. At the same time, one of the aspects that he talks about is how you can open your neural pathways to possibilities. And that's why I've had him come back on the show. For those of you who have been listening to my last three shows, everyone has heard about a recent story involving my cousin who is now ready to go into a nursing home. But while it has stressed me out, there's no bones about that. I have been able to look at it differently and somehow maintain some form of homeostasis. And that is why I thought it was opportune for Evan to come on today and pretty much explain just the processes that I've gone through, but a lot of his clients go through in order to really live a balanced life mentally and physically. That being said, Evan, I think I did justice. That just came out of my mind. I did not script it. I did not even prepare it or rehearse it, but that's how I genuinely feel. So welcome back to Frank About Health.
Wonderful. Thank you. I really appreciate you having me. I'm grateful for having another time to kind of talk about this wonderful inner critic that sits on our shoulder and whispers lies in our ear. I've had one for most of my life. I've just learned to shrink them down from 6 feet tall down to 8.5 inches. And, part of the challenge today is people think they need to do this, do that, do that, and hey, go on a diet, lose weight, improve their exercise, or improve their business, whatever it might be, their relationships. But it all comes down to the relationship you have with yourself. When the
Correct.
door's closed and you're alone, it's like character is determined by what you think and what you say to yourself. And that to me was, I think, the biggest roadblock for me and also the biggest breakthrough. And it's been the biggest breakthrough for my clients because I want to help them to really find a life that's full of more joy. And it's not
Yes.
joyful to listen to that inner critic, right?
No, not at all. Not at all. But I guess if anything, you just kind of pointed out something that I observed. If everybody is, or if everybody tends to focus on improving their business or their relationship or whatever circumstance is going on, it's still an issue of what I say or what they say in psychological terms, splitting. They're not focused on the inner core of who they are. They're focused on the environment outside of themselves, which is why they're always out of balance. Would that be safe to say?
I think that the challenge is that it's about enlightenment. What I mean by that is self-awareness is a very important tool that many of us don't have. And it's sometimes people don't wake up and live their life until they have that moment of clarity that says, wow, I'm not my thoughts. I'm not my feelings. I'm the witness to that thought or feeling, and it doesn't rule me. And it's all about emotional regulation. We as children don't have emotional regulation. We determine our emotional regulation based on our parents, based on our siblings, based on our life experience. And sometimes that experience doesn't really provide a healthy neural pathway. You don't create a way of connecting, oh, this happens and this is how I am. Because
Right.
for me, I grew up with very critical parents. My dad, it was his way or the wrong way. So I know as a kid, when I was trying to help him, he was very handy. He was a dentist, but he loved to build things. If I helped him, I would always be self-conscious because I either would hold it the wrong way and he'd criticize me. As a
Right.
child, I don't have the ability to say, "Oh, Dad, I understand that, you're being hypercritical." For me, I'm hearing in my head, I don't trust what I'm feeling. I'm not really good at this. I don't know how to do this. And then my father chimes in, "Ooh, you're doing it the wrong way." Well, now must be something wrong with me that I'm doing it the wrong way. And
Right.
that's how the inner critic gets born. We
So is that a
create these.
majority of everybody?
Oh,
They
I'm
go
not a
ahead.
psychologist, but the idea of I've studied neurobiology and neuroscience for 35, 40 years, and it's part of becoming a nutrition therapist is what I am.
Right.
Learning how to listen and understand, be an active listener, and be empathetic. Part of the
Mhm.
challenge is that when we are children, we are developing and our parents are learning. They don't know how to parent. Nobody gave you a book and said, "Hey, here's how you parent." Um, and sometimes somebody might say something, a parent might say something, and child's fine. Another child might take it away in a certain way, depending on how they're developing, depending on their ability to cope. And it's
Mhm.
might be a micro trauma, or it might be a leaning or a pushing towards saying, you know what, I don't trust what I'm thinking. I don't
Mm.
trust what I'm feeling. And a child, if they don't have the ability to learn that, hey, the parent made a mistake because we're adults, we're good people, but having challenges sometimes, like my father
Yes.
would blow up and yell. It wasn't just that he said you're doing it the wrong way, he'd do it in a certain way. I'm going to take that a certain way. And if it's as Becky Kennedy, she's a wonderful psychologist. She wrote a great book called Good Inside. She says there's a rupture that occurs when that happens, and children need to know that parents make mistakes, and
Right.
that you come back and go, "Hey, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to come out, or I didn't mean to say those things in that way. I was having a bad time. I'm good inside, but I'm having a bad time. And I apologize." And then the child can process it and learn that, oh, I can trust my feelings. And you think about how we have evolved, we're not as self aware
Right.
as we were when you think about hundreds, thousands of years as we've evolved. Things have changed in our world, and you think about 100,000 years ago, right? We didn't have the challenges we have now. We just had to worry
Correct.
about waking up and making sure that we could get a meal, that we could protect ourselves from the tribe down the street or down, around the corner, or from really
Right.
bad weather that we needed to survive. That doesn't necessarily happen now. Life has changed dramatically in the last even 125 years, let alone the last 50 years, even the last 5 years. I mean, just take COVID, right? Well,
Yeah.
our brain has an ability to cope. That's what neuroplasticity is about. It's about learning.
Right. Right.
But we're prediction machines. Our brain wants to predict what happened so that it can focus on what it needs to focus on. Survival, most
It is.
importantly, and procreation. That's the
Correct.
human existence, right? That's what we're here for. But I
Yes.
don't believe we're just humans having an existence here in life with everybody else. I believe we're spiritual beings having a human existence. And this part
Right.
of us, you mentioned the inner critic versus the inner coach. The inner critic is that human side of us. I believe the inner
Yes.
coach is that true sense of who we are. I like to call it the spiritual being that's inside of us.
Okay.
You can call it whatever you like, that energy that's out there. I do believe there's something greater than ourselves, but that
Yes.
part of us wants to grow, wants to have conflict and pain and suffering, to learn and grow, not to embrace it, but to say, you know what, I don't want to stay in my comfort zone. Whereas the human part of you wants to stay in the comfort zone. And so you have this duality of the
Yes.
human side of us saying, oh, keep me safe, keep me in my comfort zone, versus the other part of you that says, yeah, but I want to grow, I want to learn, I want to make a difference in this world. I want to have agency. I want to be able to experience all there is and give back. I think that that's really how I've come to understand this inner critic is developed, right? From
Right.
a human perspective. But the inner coach is something we need to tap into and develop.
And I guess what we're saying is that overall, while we are continuing to evolve generation after generation, you still have the elders that maybe didn't individuate or didn't develop that inner coach well enough that they just resort to the very primal instinct in how to raise their children, bringing them inner critics that also have them struggle through life. I don't want to know use the word struggle. Let's say be challenged through life with this duality. And I
Mhm.
guess people who really fight tooth and nail for their individual spirituality, per se, they probably can become masters at being able to deal with the challenges, but also look at it from the point of view that's really more meant to be, especially as our society has evolved.
And we can go back thousands of years. And from the beginning of time, there have always been sages. There have always been yogis. There have been monks that have been enlightened. Well, what's enlightenment? If some people can just kind of rationalize it away, but I believe that this self-awareness, that's where it starts, is becoming self-aware of who you are and that you are not the thoughts and feelings that are going on in your mind. You're the witness to them, and that you can regulate yourself. It's not about how what happens to you, it's how quickly you recover. That's how I look at life. And that's what I really, when I work with the business owners and leaders that are out there that are struggling as they've climbed that ladder to success, but they left their health on the bottom rung. My goal is to first let them become aware that they're exactly where they've chosen to be. They don't believe me. They don't agree, right? But the initial real, that wonderful, I love that when that epiphany happens, where they really get it, they go, wow, yes, this is I'm choosing this. I am very confident in my incompetence in managing my health. I'm great at managing my business, but I'm not taking care of my health. Well, yeah, if you have the skill set though to take care of your business, guess what? I can teach you how to translate that skill into taking better care of yourself. And it has to do with challenging those neural pathways,
So,
changing, changing, right? That's what it's all about.
yeah, but it's also telling me, and I'm always learning from you every time we talk. What it's also telling is that you know how they say it all starts with you?
Mhm.
It's like you can have all the plans you want in this world, family, business, friends, hell, even enemies for that matter. The point of the matter is that none of it is sustainable unless you are fully aware of your inner self and your vision. Correct?
You hit the nail on the head. The private victories that I work with my clients that happen behind the closed doors leads to the public victories. There are so many business owners and leaders who are so successful in business, but they're really not because they're sitting lonely. They have no connection with their family. They're overwhelmed by all the things that they have to manage and for all the lies that they've been avoiding. And they're feeling disconnected from their health. They're feeling disconnected from their family. They're feeling disconnected from life. And they're
Mm,
missing out on the most important thing in life, which is mojo, more moments of spontaneous joy. I don't believe in like I love happiness. Happiness is great, but it's transactional. A lot of people look at happiness like, oh, I'm going to go out partying on Friday. It's going to make me happy. But joy is something that's internal. And you can even have joy when you're suffering, just knowing that you, let's say somebody died, but you're
mhm.
surrounded by the people you love. There's joy in that. That's not
Yeah.
happiness, it's joy. So it's a distinction and it's something that I think that discernment is part of the reframe of what I work with my clients because part of this is understanding what are the lies that the inner critic's telling you. What are you hearing in the ear that you're hearing it whispered in your ear? Hey, you're not good enough. You're not strong enough. You're not fast enough. You're just not good enough. And that's
Mm,
not healthy.
no.
But some people think that's what you need to listen to, that's what got me successful. And I'm going to tell them, I'm going to challenge them. You don't need to live that way anymore. Absolutely not.
Well, we got to take our first break so we can surround ourselves with some TalkRadio.nyc joy and then come back and learn more about pro attitudes because I think you've just described uh, in the last 10, 12 minutes that it is being pro about your own attitude muscle, which I think you refer to it as.
Yes.
which can then drive the ship forward rather than retreat into all of these challenges that in many cases are not even necessary. So, ladies and gentlemen, please stay tuned right here on TalkRadio.nyc and on our social media pages, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitch. We'll be back in a few.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays 12 noon on TalkRadio.nyc.
Are you a high-achieving, growth-oriented leader? Are you interested in developing your authentic leadership while creating a healthy, inclusive workplace? Hi, I'm Dr. Mira Brancu, host of The Hard Skills on TalkRadio.nyc at 5 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays, where we discuss how leaders develop the hard skills needed to make a greater impact. We interview experts, have live coaching, and tackle these challenges. Listen to The Hard Skills on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on TalkRadio.nyc.
If you don't have your health, what do you really have? It's time to feel good in your body and shift from struggle to ease. Hi, I'm Elizabeth Tripp, your host of Nourish the Soul, where we explore the sacred wisdom of your body while you sit back, relax, and go on a journey of self-discovery. Join me every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to awaken your heart, transform your well-being, and unlock a deeper understanding of yourself.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back. I'm here with my guest, Evan Mestman from ProAttitudes LLC, I believe is the official name of the company. As you heard in the last 15 minutes, we've basically been discussing how we are always facing the duality of listening to our inner critic versus our inner coach. The inner coach, as he mentioned earlier, is really our spiritual being or a spiritual side of our existence as human beings. Yet, we seem to live in a society that likes to keep the inner critic more active than the inner coach. So I believe we're going to hear more about how ProAttitudes and how Evan works with his company and his clients to really make you learn who your inner coach is and work with that inner coach internally to keep yourself balanced and focused and nutritionally as well as regulated in all areas that are important to sustain. Mm-hmm.
Yes, thank you for that. You know, I work with people who really are so focused on being driven to succeed. And when that happens, you know, you're constantly making your decisions based on something that's outside of yourself. So what I like to do when I work with my clients to help them understand this difference between the inner critic and the inner coach is taking the inner critic quiz to identify who is loudest in their head. And it depends on what it's motivated by, whether it's self-reliance or self-acceptance, but there are different motivators depending on how you developed your neural pathways as a child. For me,
Right.
I have an overdrive samurai, which means I need to work, work, work. I'm externally motivated, and I've been working on being internally motivated. I also am a harmony enthusiast, which means I really like to avoid conflict. I had a lot of conflict in my house, and I was always a mediator. So it's my way of saying, hey, let's make everybody happy at whose expense? Mine. So there's a challenge there, and you're always a little upset because you're never feeling like you're getting what you need. You're saying yes to everybody except yourself. Well, there's 10 inner critics that I've identified. And once you identify who's loudest, then what we can do is to find out, based on that inner critic, you take a lifestyle challenge assessment, and I can identify the top 3 things that are the inner critic is really messing up in your life. And it has to do with, there are 7 key areas of your lifestyle that I look at. Everything from your eating habits, your exercise habits, to your inner outer connection, to your relationships. Some of those are just some of the categories. And literally, we can look at the top 3 to 5. And if we focus on those, which is a great way to kind of hone in on what the problems are, everything else falls into place. And what ends up
Incredible.
happening is I help develop, which you said, the inner coach. I call it the attitude muscle.
Right.
I've been working with business owners and leaders for 35 years, and the inner critic is loudest when you're not self-aware, when you wake up every day and you just wing it. And most people, I'd say 85% of the world, wakes up every day and you just do
Goes
what,
with the flow.
yeah. They blindly imitate what they did the day before and the day before and the day before. But there are 15% of people out there that are self-aware. Well, what if we could create a world of people who are even more self-aware? What does that mean? It just means being able to be intentional.
Yes.
That's why my program's called Intentional Health. I want to help people to wake up and go, hey, I intentionally did this. I had a morning routine that I know is a standard for me, because I can aspire to my goals, but I'm going to fall to a standard, which is that system that we create. What are the habits that you're going to do that are non-negotiable every day?
Right.
And because I have my foundation is in nutrition, I have a master's in clinical nutrition. I'm a diabetes educator, but I worked in corporate America for 20 years in sales, management, leadership. I have this affinity towards working with leaders because I know firsthand, working with them and being one myself, that it can suck the joy out of everything that you do. And
I hear you.
that's not a healthy place to be. And when you wake up in the morning and you get out of bed, do you really want to live your life to a point where you're at a place of regret when all of a sudden you're not able to bend down and play with your kids, your grandkids, or you can't go to the dinners that you want to go to because you've got a health problem that prevents you from eating what you want to eat?
Mm,
Or you can't travel the world because you're not able, you're just not capable. There are lots of things that lead to optimizing your health. And I break it down into 3 categories, the 3 pillars that I work with. One is
okay.
attitude. That's why my business is ProAttitudes. We've got to work with the mindset,
Yes.
changing those neural pathways, because if you change the way you believe by feeding different information, we do reframing, you're going to think differently, which means you're going to act differently. Those thoughts lead to feelings, and those feelings lead to actions. And those are your habits when you do them day in, day out. You can't just
Right.
change your habits without changing your belief system, because you're going to go back to the old ones, which is why
Right.
diets don't work and crazy exercise programs don't work. And that's why most 95% of people who go on a diet or try to change don't. Most people wake up and do the same thing over and over again. That's why manufacturers and marketing companies, they just love to market, because they know that people are going to do the same thing. If they make them aware of it, they're going to, oh, I like this, I'm going to do it. And they'll do it over and over and over again, no matter how bad it might be for them. And
Right.
why are nearly, I think it's close to 75% of Americans are overweight and obese? That statistic is just astronomical. Over 50% of Americans have either prediabetes or diabetes. And
Mm,
half of the people who have diabetes don't even know they have it. And that's dysregulation of their metabolism. That's
right.
strictly by what they're eating, the lack of exercise, which they do not understand. The most important drug in the world is exercise.
Mm-hmm.
It can cure the world, but we are so inactive. And we're eating and drinking and exposing ourselves to things that are really affecting our health. So instead
Correct.
of thriving, we're surviving, and healthcare is really sick care, managing symptoms. So
Mm,
that's my goal, is to help people manage through this, to say, that seems overwhelming, right? Well, how do I identify my inner critic? What are the key things that I can identify, that I can pinpoint and target? If I work on this, this is going to help me make changes. And if I see these little changes, I get my little dopamine dose because I feel good about these changes. It'll create momentum because I'm going to be living my life in forward motion. And that is where we start. Tiny, tiny habits that we can work on that will have the most impact on you. And it leads to those three pillars are attitude, nutrition, and total fitness, body, mind, spirit.
Incredible. I mean, if anything, when you put out the number 60 to 70% are pre-diabetic or diabetic and don't even know, and some don't even know it,
50.
that also means that that same rate of people are not self-aware.
Exactly. And those that are, that there are people that are in a place of denial. They're like, I'm not the problem. Everybody else is. Leave me alone. I just need to come home and relax. I want to eat what I want to eat. I want to drink what I want to drink. I want to sit and watch my shows, right? Which that's
Yes.
fine. That's all well. And what do they watch? They watch things like the news. They
Yeah.
read things like newspaper and social media that understand psychology and understand that raising that boil in their heads by giving
Right.
them stress and anxiety, creating this division between people and saying it's us versus them. Everyone gets this underlying stress and anxiety that we are not designed as animals. Humans are not designed to be in that stress response all the time. And that leads to really dysfunction in our immune systems. It leads to
Yes.
dysregulation with our blood sugars, metabolic disease. It's not just the stress, but the stress leads to, I mean, think about it. What do you like to do when you're stressed?
Well, eating would be one. Probably getting drunk for those that drink. I don't drink, but I mean, among other kind of hedonistic behaviors, who knows? I mean,
Yeah.
the reality is that I'm just seeing that the pattern is that we do live in a system, whether you call it society or political environment or whatever, or way of habitual upbringing that tries to keep you just repeating the same old bad habits. Maybe it's to have that percentage of people who are more self-aware maintain their control or can maintain their place in this world, which in itself is not normal behavior. It's like that's kind of like the divide that we're seeing in our media and in society today. That middle ground is what we're all striving for, but at the end of the day, it all begins with ourselves. Wow, I got a comment. I like ice cream and cheese fries when I'm stressed. I know it's bad, but comfort food is called at it as it is for a reason.
I
Well,
totally agree. And look at those foods. Ice cream is not a food group. It's not a problem. I don't look at ice cream as bad, but I want people to realize that if they're like this all day long, stressed, like just everything, stressed, I'm taking care of that person. Putting this fire out. I can't, this person just quit. I don't know what I'm going to do with this responsibility over there. And then I get a call. Oh, my son just sprained his ankle. You got to come and pick him up. And oh, what are we doing for dinner? And you come home and you need this. Well, it's immediate gratification. You need to release. I have a client who he comes home every night and he eats until, when he first came to me, eats until he's literally in pain. He eats till he's so full. He doesn't do that anymore because we worked on self-awareness, but he does come home because he knows now self-awareness. He's like this. He wants his ice cream and cookies. But now he's self-aware that, oh, I'm feeding something that can't be fed with food. The ice cream and
incredible.
cookies is not solving that underlying problem, but I had another client that just texted me. She had a birthday. She's had a lot of weight to lose and she still has more weight to lose. She says, it's my birthday and I'm going away and I want to eat this cake. And she sent me a picture of the cake. She texted it to me. She said, I had one bite. It was great, but it really didn't, satisfy me that much. And I stopped and she took a picture of it. And she said, I feel great. And that to me, that self-awareness of going, hey, it's self-regulation. That's what it's about. So it's,
Right.
I love French fries, maybe not as much as the cheese fries that the person mentioned, but I know that they don't make me feel good. And I also will get skin breakouts and my digestion won't do well. So I will ask myself, if I'm going to eat one, I might steal one from my son or my wife if they want it, but I'm not going to sit there and eat a plate of French fries just because I know what it feels like. And I love when my clients come to me in the
Yeah.
beginning and they've been really on point and really helping themselves by eating better quality food. And then they call it an off weekend and they go, and I don't like to think of it as off or on. It just, they know, but they were self-aware, and they come back, they say, I woke up, I said, I felt so terrible. I'd forgotten how bad I felt. And this is what happens. We just get so complacent. And I think that people who have diabetes right now are so unaware of how sick they feel. They don't know how good they feel if we could get the self-regulation of their mitochondria and their cells, their just getting those cells to respond, their blood sugar to get the insulin resistance to improve, and also just reduce the inflammation and the oxidative stress on your body, get rid of the brain fog, and just feel amazing again. People forget what it feels like.
You know, the thing is, we have to take our next break, but when we get back, I want you to answer this one question, which is my takeaway from what you've just said. It seems as though while people have problems and they want to change them, when they're about to experience the change, they put up the deniability, they make up the excuses, they're actually afraid to see change. And I want to know why that is. It's like they're lying to themselves. So stay tuned as we're here being frank about health with Evan Mestman. And about your inner coach and inner critic. And we're going to learn now about the lies that we tell ourselves to keep the deniability active and therefore avoid changing when we actually need to. We'll be back in a few.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on TalkRadio.nyc, I host the program Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on TalkRadio.nyc.
Were you an essential worker during the pandemic? If you needed to learn stages of epilepsy, did you depend on advocates? Did you use new innovations to cope with mental and neurological issues? Maintaining high quality of life and keeping good mental health are what we all strive for. I'm Frank R. Harrison, host of Frank About Health, and each week top healthcare influencers, professionals, and innovators answer these questions and more. Stay tuned on Thursdays at 5 p.m. on TalkRadio.nyc, and I will continue to be frank about health with all of you.
If you don't have your health, what do you really have? It's time to feel good in your body and shift from struggle to ease. Hi, I'm Elizabeth Tripp, your host of Nourish the Soul, where we explore the sacred wisdom of your body while you sit back, relax, and go on a journey of self-discovery. Join me every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to awaken your heart, transform your well-being, and unlock a deeper understanding of yourself.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back. So as I was saying, Evan, apparently, while you have talked about 60 to 70% of the people living under the guise of however they were programmed and negatively reinforced in order to have these bad habits that are not good for their physical or mental health, or even striving to reach the point of awareness, it seems as though when they're on the brink of making that awareness, they pull back or they're denying. No, I don't want to go there. I don't want to experience pleasure. I don't know what it feels like. Can you explain what are they doing? Are they lying to themselves, or are they just literally afraid of the unknown? I mean, give me a picture of that. Oh, unmute first.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
So, it's a great question. I understand that people have challenges when it comes to change, right? But some neural pathways work great. You wake up and you brush your teeth every day because you learned how to brush your teeth. So that's an easy one, right? You do it without even thinking. But our brains are prediction machines. So we're waking up every day and we're trying to make habits out of everything. If you think about the first time you learned how to ride a bike, or drive a car. It was really challenging and you fell down, but and hopefully not in the car when you're driving, but it wasn't easy. Now I know my wife has told me she's driven to work and didn't even know how she got there because it was so automatic. She was so busy thinking about other things.
Yes.
What I'm talking about is the way the brain functions is it does this because it can't focus on everything. It can only focus on one thing at a time. And there are so many things out if you think about right now in your field of vision, that if you had to focus on everything, our brains would just shut down, couldn't handle all the information, but it does.
Right.
How does it do that? How does it know that your microphone is there? You don't hit it with your hand. Like you don't, right? It's amazing
True.
how our brains function. How does it know where your phone is so you can pick it up when you want to check it, right? It's like there's so many things that are automatic. That's a habit. Now, I work with people to identify which habits are self-defeating, but there's plenty of habits that are effective in our lives, right?
Right.
But you asked the question of how do you deal with somebody who is constantly afraid of change, that they're constantly reverting back to an old habit? The way I
Right.
look at it is if you think about like this is your comfort zone, right? This is where you're comfortable. Nothing good ever comes out of your comfort zone, but we live in our comfort zone because the human part of us, the human part of our brain wants to stay safe. That's the immediate response to the brain because why? We're hardwired for safety and for
Correct.
survival. Outside the comfort zone, just outside the comfort zone, through this barrier, there is what I like to call the suck zone. It's when things suck. But to get to the suck zone, you need to push past the fear zone. And there's this layer of fear. It's miles and miles wide. I want you to pretend that you're walking up to the ocean, and that's how big it is. Everything that's in the ocean is fear. And you take a step into it, you don't know how deep it is, you're afraid. This fear. Well, what if I told you that the fear was only an inch deep? That if you took a step into it, you'd hit solid ground. Now, what's next is pain. Now, what's the pain from? That's why I call it sucking. When you had to learn a new skill, when you had to, when you started a new job or when you started the podcast or you had to learn how to, ride a bike or play a sport, whenever it happens, something new, it's really challenging. And
Right.
you're not good at it. Your brain has to focus. And some people don't like that because it's uncomfortable. It's the discomfort zone. That's the suck zone is the discomfort zone, but it's also something else. It's called the learning zone. Your brain now, when you feel the fear and you feel the pain, the reframe is, oh, I'm in the learning zone. I'm now learning something new. Usually it's also having difficult conversations where you might be in a situation where you're having a conversation that you're not really used to. And that's like, for me, the harmony enthusiast doesn't like that, doesn't like conflict. So when I feel conflict, because my inner critic, I keep him up here. He's only 8.5 inches tall now. He used to be 6 feet tall. What I do is I acknowledge him because it's not that I want to get rid of my inner critic. He's part of who I am.
Right.
I want to say, hey, you don't serve me anymore. Thanks for getting me where I am today, but you don't serve me anymore. And I let the thoughts and feelings go past. Because what happens? That fear is only an inch deep.
Right.
Now, how do I get more confident with something that I suck at?
You need to learn who your inner coach is because that person can work with you at going through from the suck zone to the learning zone.
How do you get there, though? You go from it's called 10,000 reps, right? When you want to learn how to do something, you want to learn how to play tennis, it'll take you like 20 minutes. But once you learn the skill of tennis, it's not easy to become an expert. How do you master it? I mean, there's only a few people in the world who can, be the top stars out there. It's the same with anything. But when you look at ordinary people, there are people out there that have extraordinary talent that don't develop it. And then there are other people who have extraordinary skills that are just ordinary talent, but because they did the 10,000 reps, they're successful. And that's where I work with people. I said, listen, you may not have the talent. I don't have the talent to play, like the basketball. I can do 10,000, shots, but
Right.
I'm going to get a lot better though if I practice 10,000 times. Now, I'm not telling you do 10,000 reps now.
Right.
What I want you to do is to realize if you don't do it, you'll never get better. So when you're in that frame of mind, which wants to take you back to your comfort zone, you need to embrace, well, if I'm feeling fear or if I'm feeling pain, I need to know that I need to push past that with what? Courage. Courage is a choice. Fear is a reaction, but courage is a choice. You choose to do what you need to do, to say, I'm going to make a commitment and keep it, even if I suck at it. But then when you do it once, that mountain becomes a molehill. Oh, that wasn't so bad. When you do the first workout, right? I don't want you to go to the gym for an hour lifting, heavy weights. Just go to the gym and do a little workout. It's 5-10 minutes. That's it. That's it. Really? Yeah. Get in the habit of going there. And now that mountain becomes a molehill. And then you feel, well, I feel confident.
Interesting. So what I'm hearing and what I'm picking up is that a lot of people who like to stay in that comfort zone because they don't want to feel the unease of learning. They call it the pain, the suck zone, and everything that we've been discussing. They're not fully aware of who they are to begin with, which is why they kind of engage in the fear and don't want to take the risk as easily as those that probably have an understanding of what their skill sets can do to reinforce the confidence. I think the secret ingredient is courage, as you said.
And consistency, because you need the 10,000 reps. So you have a commitment, you have a courage to now keep it. You feel more confidence because you completed it. You did it, right? And now you have the confidence to take on more. And so you make another commitment. You need courage, though, to do 20 minutes of a workout instead of 10 minutes.
So
now
this
you
kind
say,
of goes back. This kind of goes, I'm sorry. This kind of goes back to people who didn't develop the courage, were people who were probably raised by people who didn't have it themselves. So they really didn't know what it was, like a foreign entity.
And it could be that, you had helicopter parents. I mean, think about the kids we're raising today. We're not encouraging self-efficacy. We're not encouraging kids to have agency, to feel like I can make a contribution. I mean, how many kids do you know that are young that fold their own laundry or do they should be able to do the things like clean up the kitchen, and they have to have chores, but the chores are meant to give them agency, to make them feel that they're capable. Most parents today, though, they want to protect like, oh, I didn't have this when I was younger, so here, like, you don't have to do that. I'll do it for you. Or they have somebody else in the house that does it for them. I had a nanny for my kid.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we didn't know that the nanny was brushing his teeth for him till he was a little too old. And I'm like, well, wait a second. We just didn't know. Now, he obviously does it now, but you created neural pathways there that didn't have to exist, right? And so we had to teach him his own agency. This is part of it. It's about letting people know that, hey, they can be successful. How do you do it? You make commitments and keep them.
Right.
You have the courage when you say, I don't really want to do it. You say, you know what, though? I'm disciplined. And what is discipline? The highest form of self-love. When you wake up in the morning, no one's going to tell you you're going to be motivated to get up and exercise like I did this morning, knowing the crazy day I had, but I got up and I did it. And how do you feel after doing a workout when you really don't want to?
Like you can breathe again. I mean, I've had that moment this past week, although it was also another moment where I did more sleeping than I should have, which also gave me a positive outlook the next day.
Right. Because sleep's important in health. You need to have sleep in order to be able to do all the other things. It's so important to reset the body with sleep. Just like it's really important in that morning ritual to get sunlight, to reset your circadian rhythm, to drink water, to make sure you're properly hydrated and make sure there's electrolytes in there to make sure you're getting the right mix of electrolytes. There's so many little things that make a big difference that add up. And sometimes some people just get it. It's easy for them. Other people, they trip on the smallest of things and their inner critic gets in the way. And what I try to do is to focus on helping them develop their inner coach and stop letting the inner critic be the CEO of their life.
So is it safe to say, before we take our final break, for everyone out there, that if you want to learn who your inner coach is, they can come to you at ProAttitudes to develop courage?
Absolutely. That's what ProAttitudes is all about. Building better leaders for a better world.
Cool. So now we're going to hear some of TalkRadio.nyc's commercials and then come back and learn more about ProAttitudes and how you can become involved, as I have. So thanks for listening to this episode of Frank About Health. We'll be back in a few.
Are you a high-achieving, growth-oriented leader? Are you interested in developing your authentic leadership while creating a healthy, inclusive workplace? Hi, I'm Dr. Mira Brancu, host of The Hard Skills on TalkRadio.nyc at 5 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays, where we discuss how leaders develop the hard skills needed to make a greater impact. We interview experts, have live coaching, and tackle these challenges. Listen to The Hard Skills on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on TalkRadio.nyc.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on TalkRadio.nyc, I host the program Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on TalkRadio.nyc.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays, 12 noon on TalkRadio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back. For the last 45 minutes, you've heard again from Evan Mestman about all the aspects of our own ability to really take initiative and take the right choices in our life to have the best quality of life, whether it's through your mental health or your nutritional health. In a previous episode, we talked about our cardiac health, but more importantly, it is about your agency. It is about courage. It is about trying to do your best to stop combating with the old habits and old neural pathways and try to learn better ones to have even whatever your visions are of having a better career, a better relationship, just a better life for yourself included. Now, that being said, Evan, this is your platform to talk all about ProAttitudes. Also make reference to your commitment log, which I do use every day and has definitely sustained me this past week, as I can say. I have minimized our discussion during the last three segments about what's been going on, because you pretty much already know what that is. But I will have to say that it's the work that we've been doing together that allowed me to relatively succeed over what was a very turbulent day. So thank you for that. I'd like you to now share with everyone out there, after you have unmuted, how you can help all of them learn from their situations like I have.
I'm grateful that I've been able to help you. I work with anybody who's really struggling when it comes to taking better care of themselves. I mean, most business leaders and owners are struggling with, they're afraid of change, like you had mentioned before. They're overwhelmed with the everyday, putting the fires out of whether it's managing too many things, leading people, and they're just missing out on the small things in life. So what I end up doing with these business leaders is I help them lose weight with their minds, not their mouth. And that's the weight on their shoulder that I'm talking about, not just around the middle. I
Right.
help them be intentional with their health. And most importantly, I help them to tame their inner critic. And the best way for people to come work with me is to schedule some time and see if we're a good fit, because the first session is complimentary. And
Hmm.
you can reach me at proattitudes.com/follow. Some of my great tools are there, like the inner critic quiz if people want to take it, or the lifestyle challenge assessment, or signing up for my intentional health newsletter on LinkedIn. I'm on all the channels too. I'm on TikTok every day. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. And I write monthly the intentional health newsletter. And I'm here to really help build better leaders for a better world, starting with private victories. It's all about your attitude. To me, if we can change the way you think, you're going to start living the life you've always dreamed of. And it really makes a
Hmm.
difference when you wake up one day and everything that's happening to you, you can't really change, but you can change your perspective. And
Yes.
that's really what it's about. And it really changes your world. And that's what I love to do with my clients. It's what I did with myself first. I learned how to do
Yes.
it when I was a kid. My nickname was Heavy Heavy. And I learned how to change my habits one at a time. And it led to a
Mhm.
transformation. And that's what I want to do with anybody out there that's interested. Just please reach out and know that this isn't just a commitment log. This is 35 years of experience distilled into this wonderful, simple tool that it makes a difference when you work with me, but it is available on Amazon if anybody wants, as well
Mhm.
as my method for eating, which is called The Habits of Healthy Eating. It's a book that I have out there uh, on Amazon also.
Yes. Now I know you did begin your career as a nutritionist, and I think you even did EMT work at one point. Am I correct?
No, no, I never did EMT, but I was an adjunct professor teaching nutrition and performance, nutrition and disease for 10
Mm.
years. I
Wow.
worked in the hospital as a nutrition support dietitian with critical care. I worked as a diabetes educator. I worked in my master's thesis in cardiac rehab. And I also worked as a personal trainer and being certified as a personal trainer and managing in a health club. And that's where my office was in a health club,
Right.
because I wanted to really understand wellness, critical illness, and chronic illness. And
Yes.
being in school, I don't really feel like they taught us everything we need to know. I got a couple of pieces of the puzzle, but I said there's still so much more that needs to be known. And that's what I've been on a quest for. And this year, more than any other year in the last 2 to 3 years, there's been such an explosion of knowledge that's out there where actual investigators, the actual scientists, are coming firsthand to us through YouTube and podcasting. It's just amazing. And there's really a wealth of knowledge now that the stuff that I was working on 30 years ago, it's now was all theory. Now there's science behind it all. So I'm real excited about how to get back to health, because we need it. My God, we have an epidemic right now in the United States with
Right.
people sick and not enjoying life.
Right. But also they have to learn that everything in life, everything, the good, bad, and ugly, all begins with ourselves first, regardless of what we learned or where we came from or how we were raised. We have to master the art of owning ourselves, which most people are just blindsided to, probably because of lack of experience, deniability, or they're just not motivated because of the people that they're around that are also living in that mindset. So that challenge of getting to know yourself, I mean, we could all say we want to learn who our inner coach is, but you really want to know what your intentions are. And you have to remember it all begins with this thing you've actually referred to as a piece of meatloaf, but I know you really meant
The
it's an
spicy
organic muscle,
meatloaf. Yes, yes.
spicy meatloaf, right? But at the same time, it's also it's our brain trust. It's our car. It's our engine. When this shuts down, everything shuts down.
This is the brain, but our mind is so much more than that. And when you
Right.
think about when you get like a gut punch, not physical, but you feel it's in your body, your whole body is your mind. It's everywhere. And people are just beginning to realize that there are different parts of memory that are held in different parts of the body. That's why meditation and mindfulness and non-sleep deep rest is so important, because you're regulating and relaxing and releasing this hold on the body, the mind on the body. And it gives you permission to be just you. I mean, part of the challenge, that's part of the challenge, right? Just be you and embrace it.
Correct. And when people are anxious or having panic attacks, it's actually the brain saying, "Hey, I'm starving. I need information that I'm not getting right now. I need help." But you get the symptoms, and then most people react to sick care. Let's control the symptoms, but not understand where it came from. So everybody, you must look into proattitudes.com. Again, when he was first on the show, I joined within a month. So I definitely am. What do they say? I'm a testimonial survivor. No, that wouldn't be the right thing. I can definitely testify to how good he is at what he does. Now we're about 2 minutes to ending. I just want to let everyone know that it has been a challenging, actually, the last few months has been challenging for me, but this week in itself, I think, has been the apex of it all. But it will be uncovered in an upcoming documentary where Evan is featured, in addition to all of the individuals that you have seen over the last few months, including Retha Gray, Phyllis Quinlan. You've also seen Karen Ross. You will hear narration by a very illustrious person at TalkRadio.nyc, who I will leave nameless until you hear this documentary. It will be coming out in about a month's time. More information to follow as we are finishing up the pre-production on it. I also want to say that without TalkRadio.nyc, I do not think I would have been able to sustain myself during this past few weeks. I want to thank Sam Leibowitz out there. I always thank him on every occasion, but Evan, you are basically a referral from him. I think that's how we first met to begin with.
Exactly. It's all Sam's fault.
But he also is featured in the documentary. Everyone will begin to understand what Frank About Health has been about and where it's going. And I can't wait to share that with all of you, because if anything, it's almost like a therapeutic overview of my intentions and how I'm going to manifest them in a much more productive way in the coming year. So that's the way I'm ending today's show. I'm not going to promote what's going on in talkradio.nyc, because you can all find out by looking at the website. But there will be a new episode of Frank About Health next week, and I guess that's when I will see you all then. So we are now also available on Apple Podcasts. So if you want to look at this episode when it posts on Monday, or any of the other 74 episodes that are also on our YouTube channel, feel free to go into Apple Health. All right, everybody. Thanks for being here. Thanks again, Evan, for coming in, and we'll see you all next week.
Thanks, Frank.
All right. Take care.